What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 12 of Only for the Strong. Today's guest is the owner and operator of Comms Fitness, Steve Shannon. How are you, mate?
I'm good, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Good, you're welcome. I was actually super keen to have you on, and even before we started recording, we're almost cracking into a good chat. But obviously, you are a trainer, but can you please explain to me in a bit more detail what exactly Comms Fitness is and how it came to be?
Okay, so Comms Fitness is an acronym. Most people don't know that. It stands for Captain of My Ship. So it's just a sort of reminder to myself, really, and to my clients that you steer your course. Comms Fitness came about back in, I think it was 2009 when I did my studies and stuff and completed them, and then I went to a local gym and that my intention was to go there and be a trainer. I ended up going into a different role for quite a few years. They asked me to do it, and it worked out quite well. And then it wasn't until 2015 that I thought, no, I've got to do PT. This is where my passion is, and to get amongst it. And then I kicked it off then. Started off with just my name, but then decided I wanted a brand that I could build. And that's where it started, really. So, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted you to sort of touch on, because a lot of people do exactly what you did, but they get into just like basic hypertrophy, basic strength training. But if someone, even looking behind you, I can see you've got some like kettlebells and some maces. How did you end up getting into that sort of training?
Right. Well, I have a background in the martial arts, so I've always been a fan of that type of movement and performance. When I first started as a PT, I was sort of stock standard. I was doing hypertrophy training for my clients. It was good, but I was getting a broad range of clients, and I'm sure other PTs can relate to this. Some of them you click with, others you don't. But because when you're kicking off, you need a client base, you sort of take on anyone. And then I went and did a kettlebell certification with an awesome group up in Auckland called NZI, and that group there, they also run Redline Combat Academy, so they're all fighters. And I remember after the first day, I think we'd done like 8 or 9 hours straight, and had a question time, and I put my hand up, and this is when I was hard out into hypertrophy training, and they're like, Steve, and I was like, how often should I hit weights? And the head coach was like, what for? And I said, to look good. And he looked me dead in the eye without smiling at all and said, I'm not interested in cosmetic athletes here. And he was like, next. And so for them, if it didn't make them a better fighter, their training, they weren't interested in it at all. And I sat down feeling a bit embarrassed, a bit stupid, but that night it was just running around in my head a lot, and I was like, what, he's right. If my training doesn't enhance the way I perform physically, then what am I doing it for? So I needed to be able to move effectively in multiple planes of motion at once. So I kind of get a bit obsessive when I get into whatever style or training system I'm into. So literally over that weekend, when I got back to the gym, I basically chopped all my other type of training and just purely focused on kettlebell training for, I'd say, a good 6 months before I returned back to barbells and stuff. But what was incredible for me was that over that 6 months that I just focused on the kettlebell training, when I came back to deadlifts with the bar, I increased my maximum deadlift by 50 kgs without having worked on a barbell over that time. But because there's so much hinge movement in kettlebell training, it really developed the posterior chain. And then I thought, this is really what I'm into, and I figured that if I'm going to deliver the best session to my clients, I've got to be passionate about what I'm doing. So it was the kettlebells that I just got really passionate about, and so then I started delivering kettlebell sessions for my clients, getting them strong. I saw the results that they were getting from kettlebells as well, and which was exciting. Clients being able to do things that they never thought they'd be able to do. And then in maybe 2018, I started seeing some stuff about steel mace online. And I was like, this is interesting. I like the fact that it's a minimalist piece of equipment. So you don't need, you just need the mace, or it's like kettlebell, you just need a kettlebell. You don't need a lot of room. And it's something you can take with you if you're traveling. So I started looking more into that. And then in 2000, I did an online course first to get some idea about it, and I was just following everything I saw online and trying to learn that way. In 2019, I went over to the States and went to the Honor Academy over there, and got to train with some pretty cool coaches over there. And then I went to, that was in Austin, Texas, and I also went to California and trained with Rick Brown as well, who's sort of the Western father of mace training, let's put him like that. So he focuses on the more traditional type of mace training, which is has a sort of a small number of movements, but it's been around for a long time, and its roots go back into warfare, obviously, because it's a mace, it's a weapon. So back in the old days, in India and Persia, around that area, you'd get the warriors would train with heavy, what they call garda, which is a rustic version of what I train with. And they would do a number of movements to develop grip strength, sort of improve their shoulder health and develop rotational power. And then when they went into battle, they'd pick up their war mace, which were really light in comparison, and then they'd just move like lightning. So over there, the wrestling gyms, which have been around for forever, they still use those tools, and their wrestlers are really, really good. And just kind of complemented kettlebell training. So, kettlebell training, steel mace training, and bodyweight training, it was all, you don't require much space. It's a minimalist piece of equipment. So when COVID hit and gyms shut down, it wasn't an issue. I just did a run around all my clients, dropped off kettlebells and mace, and kept everyone going that way. But yeah, it's just fun. It's fun as well.
Did you see during the lockdown period, because obviously I've had a look through your socials, and you actually pump quite a good bit of cool content. Did that land quite well during that time?
Yeah, because there's obviously a lot of people sort of stuck at home. They couldn't get out, and if they haven't spent a lot of time doing like bodyweight training, like I had plenty of clients that were only doing bodyweight training through that period. They didn't have any equipment. It just meant that we didn't have to miss a beat with our training. Sessions run at the same time as they always would, and you could train your full body effectively without the need of a big commercial gym. So
nice. Following on from the initial question, I'd really like to touch on joint health in relation to the style of training you program for clients and yourself. It obviously has quite a bit of variance to just standard strength training. Do you notice this affect people's joint health and longevity in any way? And even just you before, I think you were saying you were 47, but then looking at your content, to be honest, you move probably better than certainly me with some of the niggles I have, and probably most people.
Well, the stuff I train for, really my goal is durability and longevity. So I've got 3 kids. I want to move as well as I possibly can for as long as I possibly can, and I want to be strong in that movement. My programming, the way I train with my clients is we pretty much do full body every time. It's a pretty simple formula. Like we do primal movement patterns, but underlying those primal movement patterns, we're all sort of born with a template of movements that develop our nervous system. And you think about the development of a baby when they come out, they've got diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing. They've got head control, which is resistance training for a baby because it's such a big portion of it. Then you've got rolling, which is really, really good for you. So people that do combat sports, jiu-jitsu, judo, wrestling, anything like that, they're actually helping the nervous system out a lot because we move as well as our nervous system tells us we can, barring any sort of condition or injury. But on average, humans have about 1,000 nerve endings per square inch of skin. So when you're getting a lot of contact with the ground, you're sending a lot of sort of nutrient-rich information to your nervous system, which makes it stronger. Rolling also stimulates your vestibular system, which is in your balance. So that tells you which way is up, which way is down, which way you're leaning. So the combination of that, and I do a lot of crawling patterns on the ground. Contralateral movement patterns are really good for your nervous system again. Then that you develop it's just a fancy word for coordination, but kinesthetic intelligence. So it's basically the bridge between what your intention is and what you actually do. and you can train to make this better over time. And then on top of that, you get a high level of reactive strength, which is what sort of athletes need in combat sports, like we talked about earlier, and rugby, any sort of contact sports. So reactive strength is your body's ability to reset to a position of power when a disruption has occurred. So if you've been tackled or hit, it's how quickly you can regain balance and be in a powerful position to rip off again. So I do a lot of body weight stuff first with my clients, and then we start adding load to it. Before I get to mace, it's usually kettlebells first to get the good foundation. Key things that I think everyone has to learn, probably the most important lift I think anyone should learn is a deadlift. I came back from an injury where I hurt my back a number of years ago. I got carried into the A&E and I got wheeled out in a wheelchair at one point. So it took me a long time to sort of get back into it. But the best thing I ever did for my training was get a coach to teach me really good form on deadlifts. And that was the best money I ever spent, was on that. With Turkish get-ups, it's a kettlebell movement. That's a key thing I get all my clients to do. Within that one movement, you've got about 5 of the 7 primal movement patterns happening in that movement, and you're chaining them together, which is something I call primal chaining, where you're learning to link movements together, which is coordination. It's very good for your joints, especially your shoulders, which I know if anyone's spent a lot of time doing hypertrophy training or just smashing bench press and stuff, shoulders can be an issue. That packs the shoulder joint and stabilizes it. And when you've so if you've got an injury in your shoulder, grinding out presses and stuff might not be the best idea. But if you can get that overhead position, get a stack with your wrist, your elbow, and your shoulder, and really pack that joint in, you stabilize it. So then that helps with recovery from any sort of shoulder injury and injury prevention as well. Combine that with ballistic movements like swings where you strengthen tendons and ligaments, and that's just a really good recipe for one, getting a strong posterior chain, but also strengthening and avoiding injury with your shoulders. So more than anything, I think shoulder health is a key part of what I do. It's probably the most prone to injury part in your body anyway. That side is. So,
yeah, you touched on there about you start clients usually with bodyweight movements, and then you progress to using equipment, and you will increase the loads.
Yeah.
Do you have any particular way you go about it? Because in strength training, usually what happens is people don't start with bodyweight movements, even though they probably should. Yeah. They go straight to compound lift or isolation lifts, and then, to me anyway, I kind of work within the realms of progressive overload, and I'm trying to create a novel stimulus, and form and execution is priority, but I'm gradually trying to increase the loads and resistance on those lifts while still executing them. Does it look the same? So is it the same sort of concept in short and the style of training you're doing, or does the volume change a little bit here and there?
Well, when I say I start with body weight, like every session pretty much starts with body weight movement because it just gets the body moving, get the crawling patterns going, so we're firing up the nervous system. So like the first part of the session is body weight, introducing new movements, doing things maybe they haven't done before. And then within the same session, I'll start adding load with the kettlebells. I think if you want to get strong, you have to add load, right? And you've got to have the right amount of load as well to give feedback to your body to respond. And also when you're doing, say, for example, kettlebell swings, it's a common movement. Pretty much every PT does it with their clients, but they don't always do it as well as it could be executed, or people are a bit shy of how much weight they should be swinging. If you don't have enough weight to give you the feedback, I always say to my clients, the kettlebell will speak to you, or the mace will speak to you. It'll give you signals of when to move based on the feedback you get from that tool, like a kettlebell swing. If you don't have enough weight, there's no need to have good technique because your body can just cope with it without any stress. So you've got to find their starting weight that's giving them enough feedback, and then you obviously want to get stronger. So we progressively increase load. Turkish get up is such a good, important movement in my training with my clients because it's the best example I can give of strength as a skill. So I mean, if your technique's great, you'll be able to move weight more efficiently. So whenever I do, there's a portion of my workouts that is heavily focused on skill. So we don't approach it with I'm gonna smash these Turkish get-ups today. I'm gonna get a sweat on. I never approach Turkish get-ups that way. I always approach them with I'm gonna make this better. I'm gonna move better. My structure's gonna be better. And inevitably, if you refine your movements, in the beginning they're big. The changes have to be big. It's like an overhaul to get the correct position and stuff. But then the better you get at things, the smaller the changes become until they're virtually imperceptible to people watching. But you'll feel it more internally. Just making these micro adjustments. So it's the best example I can give for strength as a skill. I practice Turkish get-ups. I don't smash them out.
Right.
But having said that, the weights progressively increase. Like I've had professional athletes that have trained with me that struggled with 12 kg Turkish get-ups, for example. Because there's also mobility involved in that as well. But then I've got female clients that are doing a Turkish get-up with a 40 kg, which
awesome.
if you've ever done Turkish get-ups before, that's a substantial sort of load. Shout out to Jo, she's my client that does that. So, so it's a skill. I always say to people, strength is a skill. If you refine your movement, if you optimize your movement, you'll just move things more efficiently.
Cool.
I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
no, absolutely. And I think my main takeaway from that is you are still trying to progress the loads, but with form and execution as top priority. And that's what I actually say to a lot of my clients, even though a lot of them are training hypertrophy and strength. I tell them, I set targets for them, and I'm trying to progress those targets and the numbers they hit by increasing the loads, either like taking a rep or taking an extra kilo. But I tell them that if you hit the target, but you sacrifice the standard of form and execution, then it doesn't count. Like the form and the execution is top priority. And then after that, it's about progressing your numbers and your targets. And even just you speaking about it, it's pretty evident that you've got that down packed. And that's how I think you get the best stimulus. You elicit the best stimulus that you then adapt to is by getting more efficient at the movement and moving more load.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next thing I basically wanted to ask you is, you are pretty unique in what I'd say is the health and training space, but you seem to have hit quite a good niche. What is the long-term vision for your business, and how do you see it fitting in the industry in the grand scheme of things?
Okay, thank you for that. I do what I'm passionate about. So, like I think I said earlier, if I'm really into what I'm teaching someone, they're going to get a better session from me. It's just going to be a better delivery. So I don't do like if someone comes to me and said, I want to do some boxing training for fitness, or they want to prepare for a bodybuilding comp. There's better people out there to do that for them, and they'll have a more enjoyable session. I won't be thinking, oh man, I've got to do this session that I'm just not into. I mean, every PT's had clients before where they're like, oh God, I've got to train this person. And they're already starting to stress about it, and because they know it's not going to be, the energy's not going to be, in sync. So I refer on to other PTs, pretty consistently. But I think people generally now know what I do, so if they come to me, they know what to expect. Long term, I'm a REPS registered educator now as well, so I do workshops. I run a certification for steel mace training. It's the first one specifically for the New Zealand market. I really like the educational side of things. I love working with other trainers. It gives me a huge amount of joy when you can see people's skill level just dramatically increase. And I know that that's going to have an on-flow effect. So you're going to get more people moving well, moving strong, and being able to do this stuff for longer. So, so long term, I want to develop my my online presence more. So, I've got some other courses that I'm writing in the kettlebell realm. So I've got the steel mace one. I'll be looking at doing an advanced steel mace course and then getting a certification in kettlebell training. My foundation in kettlebell training is hardstyle. So it's something people often don't know, that in the kettlebell world there's actually different styles. So I'm skilled in a particular style, and then I've kind of developed my own methods on top of that based on things I've learned from other areas of my training that I do. So when you see me do sort of flows and things like that, that's certainly not part of hardstyle. But it's something I enjoy doing. Oh, here's one thing about when you see me do the flows and things on social media. There's a lot of that goes on social media because it gets people's attention. They like the look of it. It looks cool and fun. The bulk of my training isn't flows. So I typically do them to warm up, to get the shoulders warmed up, to get the body moving, or else I do them at the end of the workout. And the reason I do them at the end of the workout is because when you've just had a hard session of lifting and your heart rate's been up and you're feeling fatigued and you've kind of done physically. Then I put a flow at the end because it forces mental engagement back into the practice, where you've got to actually have a bit more mindfulness into the practice, and think, okay, I'm doing a sequence of patterns now, and I can't just, if you're not engaged mentally, you just can't do it. So they typically happen at the start and at the end. So I digress there a bit, but. Increase my online platform. I want to be doing more workshops for other gyms and trainers, educating people on steel mace, because it's such a kind of an obscure thing in New Zealand, but it's getting quite big overseas. Being in New Zealand, we typically get everything last. It starts off in America and then it kind of spreads out, but it's very hard to get a hold of quality education here, unless you get these gurus that are visiting. And anytime a guru visits, you should just jump on that workshop, get amongst it, get excited about being a student. It's so much more fun when you're excited about that. And just being crap at things is great, because you've got so much better you can become. So to me, that's really exciting. So I want to increase workshops, online education. That's where I see myself going with this stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Oh yeah. Honestly, I even just seeing you and the things you do, I reckon you in an educator role is great. I think I saw you do a workshop at a BFT a wee while ago.
Yeah. I know them, yeah.
Yeah, and I think just looking at our industry subjectively, especially because I am in it, I'm one of those people. I think a massive problem is, a lot of people don't want to go to uni, and then another option that a lot of people go down is personal training. But I think the issue is people go and get a cert, and it's pretty short and brief, and then they come out of that, and especially if you're young and you don't have a network, and you just kind of get locked into a commercial gym, your skill set compared to others in your industry, you're kind of starting way behind the 8 ball. And so what I would say is, when I got into starting to train clients, I was a little bit older. I'd done other jobs. I'd trained in different sports. So it was a lot easier, and even then still challenging. So what I think the opportunity, if I was a new trainer, I would look to different skill sets to develop, have that white belt mentality, and something like learning mace training and proper kettlebell training is honestly something that's probably invaluable if you were going to go start building a client base,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great way to put it, that white belt mentality. Just being wide-eyed and bushy-tailed about learning. It's so much more fun because it's exciting, right? So, but yeah. Right.
Yeah, cool. So the last question I wanted to ask you is, you are a family man. How do you balance this with building a brand and training others? Has it been challenging at times, and have you got better at that balancing act?
That's a work in progress. When I've got 3 kids. I've got a 10-year-old, and I've got twins that are 8. So typically I get up at 4 a.m. And then I've got my first client at 5 a.m. I don't work any later than 2 p.m. And that's so my wife will do the school drop off, but I would typically do the school pick up. Most of the time she does the drop off, unless she's working in the office, and then we have to sort of do this juggling act. I don't work beyond 2 p.m. I know that it cuts out a lot of potential client and income stream, but in terms of keeping that work-life balance, I like to be there when my kids come out of school. Then you've got after-school activities, which are important. Like all three of my kids do judo, so getting them to those training, and when touch season comes around, they'll be hitting that again. And it's a juggling act. Usually, I would say that by come Thursday evenings, I'm pretty fried and ready for the weekend. Oh man, getting the work-life balance is a work in progress. It's something I'm looking at. But I guess the more I develop the online presence, and then the more workshops I can do, then I can shift that balance around a bit. And have you've got to have multiple layers of income in this industry. But if you're only doing face-to-face, when things don't go as planned, like COVID and stuff like that, then things can be quite rough. So I would start, developing online platforms. It's an essential part, I think, of any trainer in this day and age. You've got to have that component to your business so that you've got sort of multiple levels of your business. Yeah, so if one goes under, then the other ones are still going.
Because what is your style like when you train clients? For example, with me, I guess I am kind of militant. I do try and push my clients and bring the absolute best out of them, but I also would like to think I'm sensible enough to bring them back. But I try and be very professional, very efficient, very on the ball. And people have different styles, which is like completely fine. But one thing I struggle with is going to train clients in person, being in that mindset, trying to be the absolute best trainer I can be, and then coming home to that environment and having to flick the switch. And sometimes I do it really well, and sometimes I struggle with it. And is that hard sometimes? Because I feel we have similar vibes or branding and maybe coaching styles in our personalities. So is it hard to do that and then rush home to like be with your kids? And do you get that muddled sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to be in a role. You've got your work hat on, and you're in that role. I probably am. To some clients, I probably feel I am quite militant, but given that I work within a kind of a niche sort of training style, and people come to me for that, I don't work with anyone whose company I don't enjoy. It's just I don't want to be thinking, oh no, I've got to train this person, and inevitably you want whoever comes your way to have the best experience they can. So whether that's with me or with someone else, I want to point them in that direction. So if someone's training with me, we usually vibe. I say we always vibe. We get along well. I'm probably a bit of probably a bit militant when it comes to getting the technique right, because I know that if we get the technique right, we're going to see progress faster. But at the same time, you've got to be able to read your client and see where they're at that day. So I start off every session usually asking if they've got any niggles or anything they're working with at that, just so I'm aware of how they're feeling physically, what the energy levels are like, and then I can adapt the session based on that. So I don't want to give someone a session that they dread, but I still want them to feel like they've made some progress every session as well. So it's a balancing act. You've got to be adaptive. People come in and people got different stuff going on outside of your sessions, so you need to be able to understand that and sort of adapt what you're going to deliver. If what you had planned wasn't quite right, you might need to soften your delivery with them, give them a bit of a break, or you might need to step up. Say, all right, we're going to kill this session. You're going to own it. So, in terms of getting that balance right with home stuff, sometimes you might have that sort of militant sort of tone a bit sometimes, and then you just got to chill out and say, hey, look, I'm in a different environment now. I'm going to put my dad hat on and my husband hat, and just and try to relax and switch off from that as well. So.
Yeah, I think even just from our conversation now, what I've picked up on is one of the keys to your longevity in the industry, which a lot of people don't last that long in the industry. A lot of people are done in 12 months, And I think one thing I picked up on, and you've obviously implemented, is you don't train people just for the sake of the money, because I think you understand, like I do, when you start to do that, you end up training a lot of people that drain you, and for whatever reason that may be. But like I have tried to implement, as I'm exactly the same as, I do not train anyone that I feel mentally take from me. And I always tell people, I'm like, I can work a massive week and be physically exhausted, but if all my clients people I get on with and basically just listen and appreciate what I do, I'm usually mentally filled up at the end of the week, and I can actually sustain that. I can be physically tired, and that's fine. I can usually keep ticking away and be happy. But when I'm mentally drained from being around clients or just other people in my sphere that take from me and don't give it back, then you're not going to be able to sustain it. Because I think you would have seen this as well. A lot of trainers struggle with the business side, but a lot of people actually just burn out. And after 12 months, I've been, I actually just don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. And I think it's usually because they've just taken on anyone that comes, even if it doesn't fit their branding and their style. Yeah. And it takes from you,
100%. When you begin as a PT, you really don't have much choice in it because you need a client base, and it's how you pay your bills, right? So you take on anyone and everyone. The longer you do it, you'll find eventually an area that you're like, this is what I love doing, and this is where I should be going, and you start focusing on that area. And with the longer you spend it, the more established you get. I don't know. Energy is to me is like currency. Where you invest it is what you get in return. So if you're spending that energy as a PT, you're giving energy. And if you're spending it on someone that just, like you said, just takes and takes and takes, and they kind of bring your energy down, you're just not a good match. And that person, you'd be better off without them, but also they would be better off without you because you don't click. And they've got goals of their own. And for whatever reason, if you're not the right trainer for them, it's not a reflection on you as a trainer or them as a person. It's just, you attract people that are on your energy level. So, like I said, usually by Thursday, I'm pretty fried because it's a long week. Early starts, 4 a.m. starts. I'm a terrible sleep procrastinator. When I get quiet time, I try to extend that, so I stay up way later than I should. But I know that on the next morning, when I wake up and the 4 a.m. alarm goes up, I'm like, oh crap, this sucks, getting up at 4 a.m. But then I remember, actually, I get to train with this person and this person and this person, and they're the coolest people, So I'm only training with people that I actually look forward to spending time with, and that's what keeps my energy levels up. So it's something you might not have in the very start, but if you keep at it, you find your niche, and then you just attract people that are on your vibe. So if you look forward to seeing the people that you train, that certainly helps with your energy.
Yeah, one thing you touched on then and also earlier was the ability to be able to refer clients elsewhere, especially if it suits them. And I think that is a massive takeaway for new trainers, because that's something I do as well. For example, usually if combat athletes come to me for nutrition programming, I'm pretty confident in that. But if certain people come to me, and it might even be a personality thing, but let's say for bodybuilding competition prep, there's been quite a few instances where I have referred them elsewhere because, like you say, it'll probably be better for you and for them. And I believe anyway that it'll come full circle and probably benefit me more in some weird way in the world than if I just held on to them for the immediate money,
Yeah, absolutely. There's room enough for every PT to be successful. I think there's too much of a... you get a lot of it in the fitness industry where people are like guarded about what they do and they feel like they're at competition with other PTs, and that, it doesn't need to be that way. Like I've got the PTs that I work with that I just think are are just awesome at what they do. So why wouldn't I want that person that wants that kind of a session to work with that person? My sister came to me at one point and said she wanted to do. She had a high stress job and she wanted to do boxing training because for her it was a great way to de-stress and keep her fitness up. And I said, I know the perfect trainer for you. It wasn't me. It was another bloke. There's room for everyone to be successful. There's no need to sort of be guarded and feel like you're a competition with the others. There's plenty to go around.
Awesome. So I just have a couple quick fire questions we're just going to roll through pretty swiftly. If you were put on death row, what would your last meal be? And it's a main and a dessert.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. It's got to be roast lamb, gravy, potatoes, peas, corn, and dessert. I'm not really a dessert person. I guess it'll be my mum's apple crumble. You can't beat that, right?
Yeah. One song to train to for the rest of your life.
Oh, so for the rest of my life, Jesus. I don't know, something by the Snow Goons. I don't know. They've got a whole bunch of good songs that are. I like aggressive
Yeah,
music
nice.
when I'm training. Yeah.
Yeah. Across all sports, in your opinion, the greatest athlete of all time?
Oh, geez, that's a tough question. The most impressive athlete that I've ever witnessed would probably be George St. Pierre. He was so adaptive. He was so disciplined, and he was ready to learn and enough skill in any area that he was needing it in. He didn't get stuck in his system and think. I think that was be all and end all. Yeah, George St. Pierre. Yeah.
Cool. Your favourite movie of all time?
Okay. Can I name two?
Yep, you go for it.
Okay. There'd probably be Matrix and probably going to get harassed by my mates, the Jimmy Brothers. Princess Bride. It's a old school sort of 80s movie. Watching it with my kids recently. You'd have to watch it. Those of you who know, we could probably be best friends and if you like it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Your biggest inspiration?
Biggest inspiration? There's so many people in the fitness industry that I look up to and admire. Just people that have cut their own path and about delivering excellence that I aspire to be like. There's in the mace world, there's a whole bunch of them. Jesus. I couldn't pin it down to one person. There's too many. Yeah.
And then one piece of advice you would give your 10-year-old self?
My 10-year-old self.
Or even 20-year-old if that's easier.
No, we'll go back to 10. I think it's good. Don't quit judo because going back to it as an adult it was rugged, and I would just wish I'd never left. So I was a kid doing judo, but then watching kung fu movies and ninja movies. I thought, okay, if I'm going to be a ninja, I've got to do kicks and flips. So I went and did a bunch of other stuff, and then now that I've come full circle and I'm back at judo, I suck at it, and I just look at the people that are stuck with it, and I wish I'd done that.
Awesome. Before I wrap up, is there anything or anyone you would like to plug or thank?
There's plenty of people that have had a big influence on me. Matt Beveridge, he's one of my influences, and he was a mentor to me in my training. Tom from the Cave Nutrition. That dude's an absolute guru. Like I worked in a supplement store back in the day and thought I knew quite a bit about supplements until I met that dude, and I was just like, man, I really don't know anything. So he's like, every time I go to that shop, I get my products, but I also get education on why I should be taking these products. So that's really cool. I don't know. I'd say that. Yeah, that's probably it at the moment. There's probably a ton that I could mention, but I'll just go on. We'll go way over time.
Yeah, a couple of notables are good. So for anyone listening, make sure you go and follow Steve on Instagram at ComsFitness. But mate, thank you so much for jumping on today, especially on a Sunday. I appreciate your time, and I'm super keen to just continue to watch you grow your brand and business.
Back at you, bro. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And for all things Unbroken Performance and myself, hit the links in the description below.